Should we possibly do an intro to this? Because we didn't do that.
You lead the way. I like doing it your way.
Coming to you almost live from completely different parts of the planet, it's a very special bonus episode of It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles, featuring your co-hosts, Nate Harold and Will Noon.
Damn, that was cool. What a fun little trick that was.
In this episode, Nate and I continue to explore the Frank Reynolds origin story by discussing Danny DeVito's role as the Penguin in Tim Burton's 1992 Batman Begins. Be sure to check out our first episode of this miniseries where we discuss his role opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Twins. Please ignore the fact that we take a small break midway through, at which point I fix my microphone. Enjoy.
So jazzy. Not jazzy. So funky. Hang on, I gotta restart my notes app. Because I have a lot of stray observations that I wrote down while I was watching this fucking insane movie.
I'm a little scared because I just thought it was good. I don't know. I had fun, but I like dumb entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't enjoy it. Because I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I think he is the best Batman. Stuff from the late 80s, early 90s always has this weird feeling to me. Like, a lot of the humor is something that would obviously never fly today. And a lot of the humor went over my head when I was an 11-year-old and I saw this movie.
Yeah.
And I caught a lot more this time around.
Michelle Pfeiffer talking about boners.
Yeah. Yeah, and Danny DeVito saying he wants to fill her void.
Yeah. I was thinking about that reference, but I didn't make good notes, so I didn't write it down. And I was like, was it fill her gap or fill her void?
Yeah,
It says
fill her
something.
void.
Yeah. Fill her void.
I just did so I just watched the movie this morning, and I'm sure you just watched it last night. But so then I did a little bit of like surface level studying about it, and it turns out that the reason that it was maybe controversial at the time is because it was heavily marketed to kids via like Happy Meal toys and action figures and stuff like that. But the movie is not really aimed necessarily at solely kids. It's aimed at like you can tell Tim Burton's trying to do like a not adult themed, but it's definitely aimed at a broader audience than the first Batman. I mean, actually, they're both pretty dark, but this one seemed a little bit darker to me. Even like it's darker than what had Tim Burton done up to that point, like Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice.
Right. I guess those are more, I don't know, if Nightmare sounds like it's they're dark and weird, but there's not a lot of violence per se.
It's cartoon violence.
Yeah.
Which this is also, but also there's some more realistic stuff that I don't remember seeing this
People
movie
being thrown out of windows.
Right. I don't remember seeing this movie more than once. I think that my parents, I'm just guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that my parents did not like this movie or did not like me seeing this movie.
Should we invite them on the
age.
podcast?
No.
Why not?
Their internet's really slow. They're slower than both of ours.
Okay, that's cool.
It's out in the woods. So what was your feelings about this film overall?
I had a great time. I thought it was super fun watching. I get weird vibes from Michael Keaton. I think he is like an okay Batman, but I don't know. No matter who is playing Bruce Wayne, he's always kind of like a little bit of a tool. I think he has to be kind of, maybe to offset, to be that dichotomy of Batman and Bruce Wayne. But anyway, he wasn't in it that much, which I was okay with.
31 minutes.
That's how long he was in the movie?
That's how long Batman was on screen.
That's a crazy trivia fact that you just busted out. Hell yeah. Okay.
I watched 2 YouTube videos.
Out of like, what was it, 120 minutes? That's pretty impressive for the other characters. So yeah, I enjoyed it because Michelle Pfeiffer I thought was awesome and weird and a babe and crazy, and Frank Reynolds, we got to see where his depravity as far as eating goes, and where he got his depravity and his like ogling and like sexual lust. I feel like those are the two things that I noticed from the Penguin that Frank Reynolds kind of embodies.
Definitely. Some childhood trauma thrown in there for good measure. Well, the Penguin's childhood trauma is extreme, but I mean, Frank also has a little bit, so.
Did we ever figure out what the truth was with Frank's childhood trauma?
Yeah, well, he got sent to the nitwit school, and then there's a later episode.
Oh, so he actually did.
Right, so there's a later episode, I think it's like season 10 or 11 maybe, when Psycho Pete comes back, Frank actually finds one of the doctors that was at the nitwit school, and they kind of reassess his experiences there because there was the frog kid, and then he learns that
Right.
he was the frog
He
kid.
is right.
Right.
He is the frog kid. Right. That's
So
it.
there's some sort of like, I don't know what caused it or where it went, but he had some emotional / mental difficulties
Right.
as a youngster.
We'll get there, but wasn't he asked to produce the document that said he wasn't
Yeah, he had a official
certificate?
document from the state of Pennsylvania clearing him of any sort of claim that he would have a donkey brain.
Right, that's it. Donkey brain. It's an
Yeah.
official document. Yeah.
Yeah, they touched on it a few times, or at least twice in the series.
Amazing. Okay, so one thing I was thinking about was the wicker basket that got tossed into the river. Do you think that the wicker basket would have floated?
That's a good question. That reminds me of when Moses was a child. His mother waterproofed a basket and put him in and placed him in the River Nile. So I think there's some biblical undertones to that. But from a practical standpoint, no, I don't think it would have floated. Maybe it's because he's buoyant and because he's a penguin boy.
Oh, so you're saying that the basket and any bedding that was in there would have gotten waterlogged and sunk, but he kept the basket afloat?
It's possible. I don't know. I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Ooh, spaghetti at the wall. You're going for that clean rating. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. When I was traveling around India, I went to this little town called Hampi, and in order to cross the river, I was looking at the guidebook that what is it, Lonely Planet.
Sure.
I was doing some backpacking. They had like a little map of the town, and it was labeled as the Coracle Crossing. And I had no clue what a coracle was, and I guess I still don't, but that's what they called it. So I showed up there and watched people load 2 motorcycles, 5 bicycles, and 6 people into a giant wicker basket, and then watched them float across the river because the bridge had fallen down. So this is the only way to cross the river. It was the craziest thing. And by the time they got like halfway across, somebody had to start bailing the water out, like scooping the water out and dumping it out. And that was just like the normal process of how you get across this river.
Wow.
I wanted to cross, but I waited like 45 minutes to watch these baskets go back and forth 8 times, and they never sunk, but they always took on water. And they always got to the other side, and it was just super mind-boggling.
So you're saying that this then a buoyant child floating in a wicker basket would have probably floated. It would have taken on water.
Well, here's the thing. After crossing the river, I noticed that they would make literally like, I don't know what wicker is exactly, but it was like a woven basket.
Right.
And they would turn it over. I mean, the thing was giant. It was like 8 or 12 feet in diameter. They would turn it over and then use some sort of plastic-ish material bag stretched out to lay over the bottom of it. Since it's upside down, it was the top. And then they would like use some kind of tar material to like glue it down. So these were reinforced wicker baskets, which I didn't know at the time.
I see.
So that's the thing. If this bassinet or basket was reinforced wicker, it could have floated.
Well, we don't know what Pee Wee Herman / Paul Rubens reinforced the basket with, but yeah, it was a pretty good drop from the bridge into the water, and it just boink.
Yeah. Also, I could have sworn that when they were at the window looking out, it was Pee Wee Herman, and then when they were dumping him over the bridge, I was like, did they switch the father actor out? Like
That was Paul Rubens.
it was definitely him.
Yeah.
Okay. It was just so weird. It didn't look like him at all. I don't know if they made it seem like a year or 2 later. Maybe.
Yeah. I think they maybe even gave him gray hair in between
Right.
in between the birth and the
The abandoning.
yeah.
That was a weird choice.
It was very weird. Yeah, I agree. It was a little. It took me by surprise too.
The weirdest part is that I noticed that, thought that was weird, but also he looked very different other than that. So I was like, wait a second, is that the same? Is that still Pee-wee? But anyway,
Yeah. I think they changed his appearance a little bit, which is like, I don't know. What did they do that when the penguin was like 5 years old, 10 years old, 6 months old?
right. How old did he? Oh, maybe
They
it
said,
was the burden of and stress of having a penguin child
oh
that
right, gave him
prematurely
the gray
aged
hair.
him.
Yeah. All we know is that it's 33 years later, and so if Penguin is 33, he does not look good.
Well, he's a penguin.
Yeah.
What's the average? I'm gonna look it up. What's the average lifespan of a penguin?
What is it?
20 years.
Okay, so he's old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like this movie maybe as much as you did, but I still did have a great time. It was way, way, way longer than I remembered it. I feel like they easily could have cut out half an hour. I love Michael Keaton, as I mentioned before. Michelle Pfeiffer was amazing. And Danny DeVito, of course, is just like a monster in this movie. He is so good.
Literally and figuratively.
I don't know if this is controversial or not because this movie is so old, but I thought that Max Schreck / Christopher Walken was awesome. He was literally a cartoon. He looked like he was like animated. He was wearing those crazy suits, and then when he's in that first meeting, he's with the other, like the mayor and the other people from I guess the city, who look like pretty normal, even though they're in this like kind of henchman type lair. And then you see him, and he's got like the slick back hair and the pinstripe suits. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he really kind of does look like he stepped out of a cartoon, like almost not anime, but like real people have anime hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes,
exactly.
like that.
Yeah,
Like he looked like cartoon versioned.
I thought that the thing that struck me the most about the production was how incredible the sets were. Like when the wicker basket is floating down the water, how much do you think that cost just filming those scenes? It floats through so many different locations.
Right. It's a very long intro, but it's all kind of good.
It's really good, yeah. And like Gotham City looks awesome. There's very little computer animation. There's some like funny miniature stuff with like the Bat water boat sewer cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that stuff was like Star Wars style. But yeah, it's just like you don't really see movies like that anymore, where it's just these insane elaborate sets.
Right. In my brain, like Tim Burton is a genre of movie almost, or a style.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
he's so, I don't know. He's really good, I guess, at what he does because he does create a world in a lot of his movies.
I don't know. I should probably go pick up the dog. I'm gonna be really fast.
Okay, sick.
I'm just gonna leave this on.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
I pooped. I cried. I mean, it can be emotional.
If you're doing it right.
So where were we? We were talking about the expansive sets of the Tim Burton
Yeah.
Fantasyland.
It was pretty insane. And I'm under the impression that they didn't use really any locations. It was all sets.
Yeah.
I guess because it had to look like a comic book.
Right.
And I was just reading that they took up almost half of the Warner Brothers 62-acre like film stage.
That makes sense because the like Gotham City, there's like cars driving around and stuff in there.
Right.
It has to be kind of big.
Be huge. Yeah, and the layer, his like subterranean
Right.
penguin layer.
Yeah.
I think they said it was a 500,000 gallon tank, and they had real penguins, so it had to be chill. It was like at 30 something degrees.
Wow. That leads me to a question I had that I'm not sure if you can answer it, but so I haven't been to a zoo in a long time, but how close are the zoos to the sewage? Because it seems like the penguin area of the zoo is directly connected to the sewer.
Yeah, that's fairly standard practice.
Okay.
When city planning.
I see.
Penguins thrive in an environment of human feces.
I see. So it's good for everyone.
Yeah, the breakdown of human excrement reduces ambient temperatures down to a level that's suitable for penguin life.
Okay, then you can answer the question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I actually I studied economics, but I took a minor rather, in human feces and early penguin development.
I see. Yeah, because it just seemed like they were directly connected because.
Yeah, he would like jump into the sewer in his, I don't know, duckmobile.
Right.
Also, that was kind of weird that he had a duck, but
Didn't understand that. Maybe that was like an attraction at the zoo. Hi, Clem. Do you want to meet? Come. Don't like it. Hang on one second. There's a dog involved now. You can't really see her. She's black, but she's right there.
you should have gotten a bright orange dog because
I
this
know.
one might as well be camouflage.
Might as well be camouflage. So here's another question for you.
Okay.
What was your favorite stunt or action sequence in this movie?
Well, I think when the guy steals the mayor's baby and then does a flip off the stage and then dives into the sewer,
Yeah.
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Did you know that is Mac's dad? The guy who
What?
steals the baby. Yeah, it's Luther.
What?
Luther McDonald. Yeah.
What?
Those eyes. I immediately looked it up to see if it was him, and yeah, it was.
As soon as you said that, I was like, no. And then I thought back, when he hits the microphone, he does have a big wide-eyed expression.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't see him blink, so it must be him.
Exactly. Yeah. So Frank and Luther McDonald go way back
That's wild.
to the sewers of Gotham.
Whew. Criminal element. Okay.
Along those same lines,
Yeah. Bring it on.
towards the beginning, there's the guy selling newspapers. He's actually doing a pretty good job. He's like,
Oh, he's hustling.
Penguin's been sighted again, and read all about it here. That is Lion McPoyle, who is on the stand in the Ponderosa versus McPoyle court.
Like Pappy, the guy with the hat and the...
Lion is they mistake him for Ryan McPoyle.
Oh, okay.
But it's an older brother, Lion, and that's the kid selling newspapers.
Also, does he sell it for 50 cents to one person and then 25 cents to another person?
I didn't catch that, but I'll see if I can find that dialogue.
I think he swindles someone.
Nice. Little understated grift.
I don't have nearly as strong of an attachment to Lion McPoyle as I do to Luther McDonald.
Of course, Lion was only in one episode and kind of briefly, but he does look like a McPoyle. If you just picture it in your mind, he does. He looks a lot like Ryan.
Anyone looks like a McPoyle if you picture it in your mind.
Then the other Always Sunny appearance we see is you remember Wally from when Dennis and Mac are living in the suburbs?
Hey, Wally.
Oh, hey. Hot one today, huh?
Yeah?
Right, when he talks about the
Yeah.
weather all the time, yeah.
He is one of the consultants. He's the one that the penguin bites his nose.
Could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood.
Your nose could be...
What do you mean by that?
Whoa.
Right before he says he wants to
Okay.
fill his coworker's void.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Wally.
Okay. That's wild. That seems reasonable to catch because the consultant in Batman seems more recognizable. I recognize that character
Yeah.
as an actor. Like he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. He's got it.
But I don't remember him being the neighbor.
He has like white hair in Always Sunny.
Right. He's like 20 something years older or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of connections here.
That's pretty wild.
Going back to our favorite action scene, my favorite was when they are about to unleash havoc on Gotham, and the little poodle has the grenade. Like that old poodle goes and drops off the grenade in the store and then runs away.
In the store.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty cute.
Also, I thought it was funny that when he programs his batarang to hit all 4 people in the street and he throws it and it flies and it hits all of them and then it's about to hit the last one and the dog jumps up and grabs it.
Right.
It's a weird cut because you see the perspective of the batarang go hit each person like in the face.
Right.
And then it's going towards that, I don't know, 18th century like woman.
Right.
And the dog somehow jumps, but then when it cuts to the side view, the batarang's like 1 foot off the ground.
Exactly. Just go with it.
There are some giant skeleton head motorcycle guys. I
Yeah,
like
those
them.
are cool. Yeah.
They're pretty sweet. I was trying to find out what kind of motorcycles they were riding, but it wasn't prominently featured.
What else do you want to talk about with this movie? Okay, let me just off my memory just see if I have this plot figured out correctly. So Penguin has been living in the sewers / in the zoo his entire life.
Yes.
He's been doing crime. He's like building up a bit of a crime syndicate.
Yeah, like the Red Triangle Gang or
Right,
something.
which they mention by name later, but I think that's the only time they mention them.
Yep. Yeah, weird.
Okay, so he has this gang of circus people and a gang of penguins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he has been doing research on a prominent member of Gotham's, prominent citizen of Gotham City, Max Schreck. He gathers up material with which to blackmail him.
Oh, right, yeah.
He follows through on the blackmail for the purpose of what exactly? For him to go find his family?
I think he wants Max Schreck to is the word ingratiate, or
Yeah.
he wants to like blend into society. He wants to leave the sewers,
Right.
and he thinks Max is his outlet,
Right.
his conduit for becoming part of higher society.
So then Max's idea is to have him run for mayor, even though it's December and the election is in November.
Yeah. I'm not sure how Max comes up with that. Well, I know why, because Max is frustrated that the mayor won't approve of his power plant,
Yeah.
which is actually just a capacitor that will suck up extra surplus energy and like
Right.
feed it back at some point.
Right.
But he wants to replace the mayor, and then for some reason, I guess it's opportunistic. Yeah, the Penguin becomes his chosen candidate that he thinks can do it. Well, maybe it's because Penguin's entrance, it's made with such fanfare and there's such notoriety that who else are you going to get to be this like surprise, like recall the mayor and replace him with someone else and do this?
Right.
Happenstance, maybe he just sees that as a weird opportunity.
Yeah. I just see the Penguin blackmailing this guy and then this guy using him as a pawn. I don't know. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that when I saw the movie for the first time, I was not thinking about all these connections. I think it would be very confusing for like a child.
Yeah, but also as a child, like you experienced it, you just hear what the person says in the scene and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
he's got the upper hand because he knows about his toxic sludge or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's great. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, well, he doesn't like the mayor. He wants this guy who's on his team, who's
Right.
shady, to be the mayor. Okay, that works.
Yeah. It was just a little convoluted, but it's fine. It's a comic book movie.
Would you prefer that Catwoman and Penguin were looking for buried treasure?
Yeah, I read that was the like the original idea. It would have been a lot simpler, probably. But what I was going to say, like, also there are multiple villains in this movie, and to me, the biggest villain was Shrek.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, Penguin's evil and awful, but the main villain seems to me to be Max Shrek because he's planning on just exploiting all of Gotham.
right, but Penguin does steal everyone's firstborn child.
He attempts it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he does. It's just, I think Batman commandeers the little train that moves very slowly,
Right.
which I thought was a pretty funny thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess that's a very common theme for Batman villains. They always do like weird, elaborate things that are like schemes. I guess it's like made, it's referenced overtly in Austin Powers.
Right.
When all the system, it's like a James Bond thing. When you're going to kill someone, you set up some elaborate system that's very slow, and then you walk away and assume that everything's gone to plan.
Yeah, and then a very elaborate plan B with penguins strapped with explosives.
Yeah. Did you read about the original casting of Catwoman?
Annette Bening, she would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know her much, so I was just like, oh, that's fine.
Michelle Pfeiffer killed it.
Right. And I was actually more curious about the campaign that Sean Young. Wait, was it Sean Young? Yes. So, do you know who Sean Young is?
Was she in Blade Runner?
I'm not going to know that.
Okay.
I just know that she was originally cast as Vicky Vale in the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I think she was in Blade Runner.
She broke her collar riding a horse or something. So she was replaced by Kim Basinger.
Okay.
So that when Tim Burton and the studio was set up to do this, she basically thought that they owed her Catwoman.
Bummer.
So that in her mind, she was like, "That's my role. That's going to be my thing." She didn't get an audition, so on set, like while they were in production, I'm assuming pretty early on before anything else was going on, but she showed up on set in a homemade Catwoman suit.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
There's clips of her on the Joan Rivers show in her homemade Catwoman suit, and yeah, she thought that would get her the part, I guess.
That sucks.
Why do you all want this role so badly?
Because this is why. Hollywood has become an unfortunate situation where art and commerce, are at odds. And art is sort of like an endangered species. And the big blockbuster becomes what makes it possible for people to gain more power, to do other roles, to demand more and better roles.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, Catwoman's path to becoming a Catwoman is also pretty interesting. She has a very cool apartment.
Yeah. There's like multiple rooms going on.
Yeah. So there's not like a ton of development with the character, but she is Shrek's assistant, not his secretary, his assistant. And she seems like to be a little awkward, a little scatterbrained. She
lacks confidence.
Well, yeah, she does, but she also started out by bringing them coffee and then trying to I have an idea.
Butting in, yeah.
In this meeting between Mayor and Max Schreck. And then she just kind of talks to herself kind of a lot, and she goes home and listens to her messages. She had a lot of messages.
Very popular.
Yeah. And then one of the messages is from herself.
Right.
Reminding her that she needed to go do something at the office, so she leaves in a hurry, and she's back at the office, and Max Schreck, after being confronted by Penguin, comes into the office and sees what she's doing, and she's been reading a bunch of files that she wasn't supposed to be reading. She knows about his plan, so he kills her in what was a bit of a graphic death scene, when she's hitting those
awnings.
Yeah, when she's going through those awnings, it's a little rough. And then she is brought back to life by cats.
Specifically, cats chewing on her finger, I think. That's really what does it.
And so now she is a literal cat person. She has 9 lives.
Yep.
I just thought that was a very interesting character development. And she becomes a completely different person, and she's very forward and aggressive, and I guess she's a crime fighter also at first.
Sort of. Yeah, she does prevent a woman from getting raped.
Right. And then fairly quickly she's teamed up with Penguin. And
she doesn't like Batman.
There's a real will they, won't they vibe happening between those two. The sexual chemistry between Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer is hot stuff.
I mean, sexual tension between Danny DeVito and anyone is pretty palpable.
It's true.
Oh, do you have a favorite line? Because I have one.
Yes, I do. It's Batman versus Catwoman. And at one point he says, "Eat floor. It's high in fiber."
That's true.
I thought that was really good.
I guess I should look mine up to find out what the precursor. So they're at the cotillion ball, whatever, the gala event.
Best scene in the movie, I think.
And yeah, it's really great. Also, that's when Michelle Pfeiffer delivers her line about Bruce Wayne says something is hard, and she says, "Well, it's semi-hard."
Yeah, it's an Always Sunny joke.
So good.
Yeah.
But my favorite is when somehow, I guess, Max is confronting Bruce, and they're talking about, basically they're subtly talking about Max's plan to replace the mayor. And he said, "I'm like the dark, twisted soul of the city. Does it matter who's mayor?" And Bruce Wayne says, "It does to me, as a noble, valiant person." And Max says, "Yawn," and then walks away.
Nice.
Doesn't matter who's mayor. It does to me.
Yawn.
Another great line during the Penguin death scene when he's dying and he's trying to, he's doing his last gasp, and he grabs an umbrella from his cache of weaponized umbrellas, and it's one of the cute ones, and he says,
I picked it
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, if only
Um,
it were a gun umbrella.
Speaking of umbrella technology, what was your favorite piece of technology in this movie?
I would have to say it was the Bat car, in which
The
you can have
Batmobile.
this. Oh yeah, the Batmobile. The Batmobile, in which you could totally protect itself with 18 million things. It can shed layers and become skinny. It can do. It has a giant pole that sticks out of the bottom, so it can rotate
So
180 degrees.
awkward.
Yet, with a few simple punches, you can knock out the floorboards so that you can reach down and remove something if it's stuck to
Right.
the underside of the car.
Right.
I don't know if that's my favorite, but that's my favorite concept, is something so shitty that you could just reach down and push the floorboards out.
My favorite bit of tech is when Bruce Wayne does a violation of the Penguin's First Amendment, and he cuts the audio to his press conference, and then he has this CD player, and he just starts playing this audio that he had recorded on a CD from the Batmobile.
Right.
And then he does a little bit of DJ style scratching with the CD.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is some good stuff.
Well, don't they? I feel like not with CDs, but I feel like with like fake turntables.
Like CDJs, like the
Yeah,
yeah. You're usually not touching the CD, and
itself. Right.
yeah. I think the CDJ is designed to behave like a vinyl record.
Yeah. I thought that was ridiculous, but it was not ridiculous enough for me to remember a second after it left my brain.
Yeah, I loved that part. Also, just the Bat sewer cruiser is pretty cool too. They think of everything.
Yeah, is that one specific, or is that an
Well,
iteration of the Batmobile?
I'm assuming that it's a Bat boat of some kind, but the reason I'm calling it the sewer cruiser is because it was the perfect size,
Right.
and just seemed like the ideal vehicle for whipping through the sewers / zoos of Gotham City.
I think that that's a pretty standard build size for a crime fighting vehicle. You know,
Okay.
you want to use the sewer as well. There's two things. You want your main vehicle to be sewer width,
Yes.
standard sewer width. It's like an SSW, standard sewer width. And then you want to shrink that down to every vehicle should be able to convert down to the completely unnecessarily small alley size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the roller.
Those are
skate,
like your-
the
Your,
inline
your
skate.
two standard widths, you know.
Yeah, the rollerblade mobile.
Have you ever seen an alley like that where two buildings come together and it's just like
I see them every day, man. That's how a lot of alleys are in big cities. So tell me some things about Penguin that you saw that reminded you of Frank Reynolds.
I think I mentioned this earlier, but the two main takeaways that I had when watching The Penguin that reminded me of Frank Reynolds were, one, his appetite or his eating habits, because he would often have, food blood dripping down his mouth and food particles on his hands and face.
He was he was really eating fish. I saw an interview.
He was eating raw
with
fish.
Danny DeVito. Yeah, they said that they started with like sushi fish inside of the like corpse, the skin. But he said
Right.
that he named the fish, and I'd never heard of it. It was a baby something, but he was eating fish.
I eat my share of raw fish. I would put some sushi inside, like some, but then after a while, you get into it, and once you get past the smell,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And people talk about that Lincoln guy as a method character actor or whatever.
He's referring to Daniel Day-Lewis.
DDL, what up? Yes. So that's pretty amazing to stay in character so much that you're eating raw fish. Okay, so he had raw fish all over him. Great. And the other thing was his leering nature and his sexual appetite.
His lust.
Every chance he gets, he is, lusting after the various women, whether it's his very attractive 1950s looking fans. As a mayor, he has groupies. He has a stylist or a, marketing consultant that he lusts after, the Catwoman. I don't know if there's other.
That's you pretty much nailed the Frank comparison, but there was also something that he said because in Always Sunny, not at the point that we're at in our show, but later, Frank and Charlie do a lot of sewer exploring.
Right. Yes.
And I wondered, when I was watching it, I wondered if they had maybe used that as like some loose reference.
Some inspiration. Yeah.
Going out in the sewer to forage for rings and coins. But yeah, it was just a line that Penguin said. He said, "You flush it, I flaunt it." And that just instantly made me think of Frank and Charlie like finding denim under the bridge or finding rings and coins in the sewer.
They don't reluctantly use the sewers. They are like stoked on it.
Yeah.
I always think of Thundergun Express 2.
Yeah, yeah.
When Dee gets trapped and Charlie's trying to explain how you navigate the sewers, you got to take your clothes off and lift them up high so they stay dry. It's like obviously
it's a little more refreshing than you might think.
Yeah. All that warm piss and shit, flows over
good.
you. Yeah, it's pretty refreshing. Yeah, so Charlie and also Frank are like, they're well versed in the sewers, and it completely makes sense.
Right.
In
Also,
Frank's backstory.
Yeah, also like a more like superficial comparison is when the Penguin takes over his the Batmobile and he's driving it. The Penguin's a bad driver, and Frank is a bad driver. Frank's license is expired. The Penguin says his license is expired, even though that's a joke.
Right. Interesting. I was gonna say, is Penguin a bad driver, or is he driving poorly on purpose? But
he's
probably never.
He's an amazing driver. I mean, that's the thing is like it's movie action sequence driving. So yeah, he's incredible. But you're led to believe that he's like Batman's in danger because he's a bad driver.
Right. Or doing it on purpose. I don't know. But
yeah,
theoretically, you would assume he's never driven a car before.
Yeah, exactly. He's never been upstairs, so to speak.
Also, I think it's really cute that he's in a child's like toy car thing that you would see outside like a laundromat or something.
Yeah, it really had like a 90s arcade vibe. Okay, is there anything else you want to talk about?
What's not to like? I feel like you said that you liked a bunch of things, but then overall you didn't enjoy it.
No, because I'd sort of recently, like I think in the last few months, my wife and I rented the first Batman movie. So it was relatively fresh in my mind, and I just think that one is so much better. I also probably have more of an attachment, because I think I saw that movie when I was a kid like 5 times. So I think that the first one is better. I will say this was not terrible. I don't think it's close to as good, but it is a million times better than the movies that come after it.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about movies after this.
I believe Joel Schumacher takes over for Tim Burton, and we get Val Kilmer, and then we get George Clooney, and we get Nipples on the Batsuit, and I mean, there are some good villains. I mean, there's the Riddler, there's Two-Face, even though they're incredibly annoying. There's Poison Ivy, there's
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, that's who I was trying to think of, yeah. But me,
I think at one point I was reading that Mr. Freeze's plot was almost the plot of this one.
Oh, really? They
were floating the idea of Penguin freezing the city so that his penguin, friends could live above the sewers.
Right. But yeah, it's not as good as the first one. A zillion times better than the 3 that come after that, 2 or 3.
So you're saying it was the shortest giant?
Yeah, exactly. But I did enjoy it. I watched it at like 7:30 in the morning. So it was like a little weird of a viewing, but yeah, it was fun. It just really, really could have been shorter. And apparently they did take a bunch of stuff out.
Well, I had fun.
Me too.
That's all I got to say.
But yeah, it was cool to see like Danny. I know what I was going to also say. Another Frank closing observation. Don't you think that, maybe you don't remember this as well, but the chief in Lethal Weapon 6 and I guess 5 too, that Frank plays?
Yeah.
He talks a lot like Penguin. It's very similar delivery.
I need clean drinking water too. Even sharks need water.
I don't remember the chief's speech patterns.
Yeah. Maybe just after this, take a quick like YouTube look, but it's very similar.
So that just reinforces I think the theory that we're building to is that Danny DeVito has never played a character outside of this one.
Right. Or at least pieces. There are pieces of it scattered throughout his career.
Yeah, there's like a Venn diagram of all his characters happening.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, it was fun, and hopefully, if anyone listens to this and also watched the movie, hopefully it was fun.
Yeah. Or maybe it will inspire someone to go back and view the movie.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess that's it for us, right?
That's it. Frank Reynolds Origin Story Part 2.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we will see you next time on It's Always Stockholm and Los Angeles.